Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have got some very interesting stuff to go and talk about today. We had an engineering tech preview for Evocati that ran overnight. There was some very interesting stuff that came out from that. There's a little bit of leaked video that we're going to talk about and go through that shows some of the UI for the engineering terminals, and there's some of the patch note stuff we'll talk about as well. And then we also have from this tech preview some stuff related to 4.4 that has been data mined. So we're going to talk about that too. We'll probably go through the 4.4 related stuff first, and then we'll go and talk about the engineering related stuff. But this is going to be a bit of a spoilery video. We got future stuff for the Nix patch, as well as the big engineering system that'll be coming in at some point soon. But let's go ahead and let's get into 4.4 stuff, and then we'll go over the tech preview patch notes and talk about some of the engineering updates that we have. All right, so let's start with that 4.4 related stuff from this tech preview data mine. First section we have is some new commodities. We have lindinium, a versatile metal that has been successfully alloyed with numerous other elements. Miners in the Nix system have been known to go to great lengths to procure it, so that could be a very valuable resource, maybe once we have crafting that you'll use as a very high performance, very useful metal for a bunch of different things. We then have severilium, I think is how you'd say it. This metal, first discovered in the Nix system, was a main economic driver for early miners of the system thanks to its unique alloyed properties. We then have torite, found throughout the Nix system. This common metal has been mined by local inhabitants for a variety of uses, though it has yet to be adopted wider. And then we have organics. Organics are formerly living organisms that have been prepared for other purposes. This includes meat, plant and animal parts, biofuel, and other such items. So I would say some of these, probably at least the torite, sounds like it's pretty common to find. So that would maybe be like a common material you can find throughout the glacium belt if you're trying to go mine around in like your prospector or something. Maybe those other two commodities up at the top maybe those will be rarer minerals you can find. Maybe they'll be something you find in the rock cracker activity that they'll be bringing in. I think they said at some point early next year. Sounded like it was coming pretty soon from what they said at CitizenCon. But maybe you'll also be able to find it just, here and there in the glacium ring. So some interesting new commodities that I'm sure will have a pretty big role once we have crafting and all those related systems. And then the next section we have is for new harvestables. The first one is the blue moon fungus. Preferring to spore in the depths of dark caves, the fruiting mushrooms of the blue moon fungus are often collected as a highly valued petroleum-free lubricant used across a wide variety of industries. So again, another commodity that might need refining into that lubricant that maybe that's used as a maintenance material for your crafting machines or your base building machines or something like that. And then we also have miner's horn. First discovered in the sewer lines at the QV mining station built into the Delamar asteroid in Nix, this quick-growing fungus has become a useful manufacturing component for the settlers of Levski, thanks to the strong mycelium fibers that can be dried and used in a variety of ways. So again, some other material, maybe you use that to make armor, I don't know, the fibers maybe it's used for clothing, something like that. So pretty interesting. Next, we have some new Wicklow recipes. Now, these don't have the recipes themselves, but it is a listing of an item and then kind of the description of it for Wicklow's version specifically. So first we have the Big Booma RPG. That would be the weird kind of thrown together rocket launcher. The description of this one is, Wicklow find very strange but functional weapon while wandering through your systems. It very simple but very effective. If you bring me things, I show you what I do to it. Very fun. So probably just the skin on it, I would guess, but should be fun. And then we also have the spiky armor, the Vanduul armor that we saw, I believe, in the roadmap update. This is just a skin or like a different version of the new armor set that'll be coming next patch. This description is, Vanduul have strange ways. I never talk to them. Old Sulu used to, but not Wicklow. Anyway, though not friendly, they make interesting thing. If you like, Wicklow can make you look more like. Bring things, will do. Bye. It is interesting that Wicklow himself hasn't talked to the Vanduul, but his old Suli, or his old group family, I guess, for the Banu did. So doesn't sound like at least the Vanduul are always instantly going to kill everyone or everything. So that could be interesting to see if there's opportunities to not just murder them all the time. Maybe you can kind of not be friends, but maybe trade with them or something. I don't know. You never know, but that'll be a pretty cool armor to get. From the roadmap picture, it looks very, very, very nice. Then we have some new gear. So this first one is the Sol 3 armor set Bombardier. Now, I'm pretty sure we already have a Sol 3 set that is the, if you have the CitizenCon Digital Goodies package, it's kind of the flight suit, undersuit sort of thing, and the little helmet that is themed after the Paladin. This sounds like it'll be one that has some different color themes. Maybe it'll go along with another ship that we see at IAE. The description on this is, inspired by the original flight suits worn by Earth's Air Force, this replica stays true to the historical design while incorporating modern comforts. The Bombardier edition is primarily a stone color with dark brown accents. And then we have the Testudo armor set. I believe this is going to be that new armor that we saw in the roadmap update. So there's going to be 4 variants plus the additional one for Wicklow that's kind of the Vanduul themed version of that armor. But the description on this one is, the Testudo armor for Quineris Tech blends battlefield durability with everyday comfort. It weaves tough yet lightweight plating with ultra-strong synthetic fibers to provide premium protect. Lining the inside is a proprietary micromodal fabric that's soft to the touch and wicks away moisture for supreme comfort. So should be some more cool armor sets coming in. They are, at least the Testudo one, as far as I know, is a medium armor. So it, I just, right now, heavy armor is still usually the kind of the default that people go to. But I'm sure it'll be pretty cool. I really like the look of it from what we've seen. So I'm looking forward to collecting all those different variants. And I'm interested in seeing this other Sol 3 armor set. And if it's just, something that gets put in the loot pool or something we can find, or if it's part of like a ship bundle or one of the new ships we may see at IAE. We'll have to see. We have some notes of new Nyx locations. We have the Glacium Ring wreck site, asteroid clusters, asteroid mining claims, rest stop space station. I would guess that might be sort of like kind of all the random space stations in Pyro, like Gaslight and Dudley's and Daughters, and what are the other ones? Endgame, all those, maybe something similar to that. So there may be some additional smaller stations for refueling and so on. And then we have the QV logistics station. This is, I believe, the location that will be the new kind of sandbox activity in Nyx. I think it seems like it's kind of a expansion on contested zones, maybe, but there'll be lots of PvE threats. Maybe you'll run into PvP there as well. That's supposed to be in the Glacium Ring. And then we also have the jump point from Nyx to Castro, which right now will be going from Nyx to Stanton, as well as the jump point from Nyx to Pyro. And then we have a few other mentions of some new missions in Nyx. The first one is Caboose, Vanduul Tech Smugglers. I don't know what Caboose is, but there's that. There's also Intersec, handle Vanduul attack on ship, and Intersec, eliminate Vanduul ship. So that sounds like some kind of like PvE bounties in a way, but you're hunting some Vanduul as well. It'll be interesting to see if the Vanduul like noticeably fly different than the current like AI human pilots we have, and if they're noticeably more difficult. But that's some of the new missions that we're going to see in Nyx. I'm sure there's going to be many, many more, though, that we'll see once that goes into testing. And then lastly, there's a few additional notes that are very, very interesting. The first one is a new encumbrance weight tooltip. At the green level, you experience no encumbrance. At the yellow level, you begin to slow down. And at the red level, you can barely walk. I believe this was briefly shown, or a little indicator of this was shown when they gave us a glimpse of the new inventory system at CitizenCon. It appeared that there was some sort of weight meter. So seems like they may actually be bringing weight into calculation. So you put a bunch of guns in your bag, you may get slowed down quite a bit and you can't move almost at all. Or just of course, based on the guns that you have on your backpack, that could affect it as well. So very, very interesting there. And then we also have FPS Vanduul melee combat attacks setup. So if they're adding FPS Vanduul melee combat stuff, that makes me think there's a possibility we very well may run into to Vanduul on foot, maybe inside these QV logistics stations. In CitizenCon, they said that when you first meet the station inhabitants, that first wave is a warm up for then what you'll face after that. So you never know. Maybe later in the fight there, and maybe through your exploring, you come across a Vanduul or two that you have to fight. And then we also have missile racks left and right that have been added for the RSI Hermes and Apollo variant. So I know, I guess the normal Apollos, the missile racks on the left and right, I think, what is it? The Triage has 4 missiles in each one, and the Medevac has 8, I want to say. This doesn't specify which, but that does seem to be some pretty good confirmation that the Hermes that we've heard that name thrown around a little bit does seem to be an Apollo variant. Again, it's yet to be seen for sure what it is. From some Datamined stuff we'd seen previously, it sounded like it may be a cargo hauling variant or kind of like a more general purpose version of the Apollo. It sounded like it might have a tractor beam, and the component layout has been moved around a little bit, so we'll have to wait and see for sure. But there is some more confirmation of it in the files. And then last of all, for these additional notes, there is an item insurance bricked status setup. So they may be working on, from the monthly reports, they've said they're working on that sort of like key cards, like for example, key cards that only work for a certain amount of time, and then they get bricked, so you have to go get a new one. So we might be seeing that sooner than we think. But that's all the Datamined stuff currently related to 4.4. Now, we haven't actually had a 4.4 Evocati patch yet. I believe they said that they plan to try and get that out to Evo sometime this week. So maybe tomorrow or Friday, we'll get a first Evo patch, and there may be some additional stuff that's included there. But now, let's go ahead and transition over to talking about all of the engineering stuff. We'll briefly go through the patch notes that were put out for that tech preview, and then we'll talk about some of the stuff that we have heard. And there's a little bit of video that we'll go over that kind of gives a preview of some of the stuff that we could see with engineering. All right, so let's go over these tech preview patch notes really quick. So we have a bunch of kind of little quick one-liners here about a bunch of stuff that's part of the engineering system that has been put in as part of this. So we'll just go through it really quick. Ships power management of items through the engineering screen as well as through your MFD. The engineering screen is active, so if you're in like a Cutlass Black, which you have the engineering screen, that does work as for the tech preview, of course. You get a room overview on there, notifications for failures of components. You get power management abilities. You can create presets for loadouts, how you want your power to be distributed. And you can also turn on and off individual components. I'm pretty sure you're also able to do this on the diagnostic MFD screen, which they say here. So the diagnostic screen MFD, this gives you an overview of all components, a one-time repair through a button click for completely broken items to allow single seaters a one-time off repair. I have heard that this didn't repair the component fully. It repaired it up to like 20 or 25% health or something. So not broken anymore, but enough, fixed enough that you could, limp back to station or something to repair. Then we also have a critical state and health overview of all components. And you get the additional control of turning your components on and off from that MFD screen as well. And we have a bunch of stuff related to fire and life support, which I thought they said initially wasn't going to be part of engineering, but I guess now that it's been a couple extra months, they've been able to get that in as well. So we have the heat management of items. Items that are powered on will produce heat that needs the countering of coolers. So the meta, at least for the last while, if you're flying like fighters, is to just unequip one of the coolers and the other cooler put in like a snowblind, like a stealth cooler, because it doesn't really make any difference right now. But that will not work once we have engineering in. You will actually have to have better coolers that provide enough coolant resource, because it says overheated components will shut off to cool down again. So if you don't have enough coolant, then your ship, if you're in the middle of a fight, will just turn off, and then you're pretty much screwed after that. And we also have the life support system. Life support will manage breathable atmosphere and temperature of rooms, not yet affected by players' breathing, but it is affected by fire and affected by venting the ship. And then we have fire on ships. Fire can spread. Fire can be triggered through overheated components, and fire can get triggered through damaging of components. Shooting a component with energy or ballistic weapons, that'll light it on fire, and the fire can get extinguished through both the venting of rooms or using the fire extinguisher. And right now, the temperature needs to be brought down to prevent reignition. So even if you put the fire out initially, say with the fire extinguisher, if it's still really, really hot in that room as a result of the fire, it could reignite. So it's going to be a combination of putting the initial fire out and then getting that room cooled back down so it doesn't just spontaneously combust yet again. Then we have some info on relays and component stuff. So relay function has changed and is not in quite yet. The goal is for fully intact relays will allow the full power throughput, which means each fuse that gets destroyed will reduce the total power available in the ship. The change relays are not the hard weak point anymore, so I think that means you won't be like always replacing the little relays or the fuses, but if you lose all the fuses in like a certain area, that will render that part of the ship dead. So sometimes you'll probably have to replace them or go repair them, but I don't think it's just going to be running around to fuse boxes all the time and just switching those out when they take like one bullet or something. Then we have a component damage section. Ship weapons will penetrate the hull and damage components below. Component death will result in component not being functional, but it can be repaired. The power plant can go into a critical state, and that will make the ship explode. Right now, as of that tech preview build from last night, you couldn't repair the power plant so it wouldn't explode. That's just a bug, but that will be fixed, so you can repair it. Or you can remove the power plant if you need to prevent the ship from just blowing up. And then if you have a backup power plant, you can put that back in the ship. And then the other thing is armor of ships is not in yet, did not make it in time. I assume that means it's pretty close to coming in. So maybe in the next tech preview, we'll see ship armor in, because it sounded like ships are according to what we heard, you could just shoot right through them really easily. So it was very easy to catch components on fire. So we'll have to see. I'm sure armor will change quite a bit of that, however they're going to end up doing that. Then a few other little things. Weapon balancing. There has been an updated weapon balancing pass to account for penetration and new damage. Unfortunately, the numbers for those won't be put on like Urkel or SP Viewer until I think it'd be in like an actual PTU patch. And then there's also been a full ship component balancing. So full balancing for components, the heat generation mechanic, the update of component health and damage resistances. Really looking forward to seeing what changes they've made for, say, like shield pool values. I'm really hoping they made size 3 and size 2 shields stronger, because they're, for some reason, they like cut the strength in half on both of them like a while ago, and I don't really know why. So I'm hoping they change something like that. Some other interesting changes will be fascinating to see. And then lastly, the repair gun now repairs components, and that repair rate that consumes RMC from the little canister has been updated. And there's the fire extinguisher cools down and extinguishes fire, so you can actually pick those up out of your ship now and use them to put out fires. All right, so now there's 2 videos that we have to look at. These are from the Pipeline Leaks channel. One is, this first one we're going to look at is a little bit blurry, a little bit weird, wonky looking, but this is from Evo. This looks at some of the engineering terminal screens, and there's a little bit of showcase of like fire. And then we have another one to look at briefly that shows some similar stuff in the Polaris. So I'll just go ahead and start this here. We can see, there's on the screen here, if we just kind of look at this for a moment, on the left side, we have 3 different tabs. You have your 3D view of the ship. You can go to your settings, which I think they'll go to in a moment. That's kind of like the power management MFE that we have currently. Lets you allocate power to different systems. And then you also have a presets tab where you'll be able to set up specific presets for the ship for whatever you want. You can see here a layout of similar to like what you have on the mini map for the internals of the ship. You can see the guns and everything. These little purple boxes, I believe, are specific buttons for each room. And if you hover over it or click on it, it gives you this little pop-up here that shows you the current temperature in the room, the atmospheric composition, and then you also have an option to power off, I believe, the life support for individual rooms. So if you have a fire in a specific area, so this is a Corsair, say it's in the the habitation area, you could power off the life support to that specific room, and that would hopefully help choke out the fire and stop it from spreading throughout the rest of the ship. Down at the bottom here, from what I understand, you also have control over like doors and some of the other systems. They may go through it here in a minute, but let's go ahead and I'll skip around. We'll just skip around to next part that would be relevant to show you all. So then here you can see they went to that settings tab on the left-hand side, and you can see here we have our power management. It looks pretty similar to what we have on the MFD. You have a little bit more information. You can see like what amount of pips are being pulled from your specific power plants. And I think you could also, if you only wanted to have one power plant turned on, you could turn the other one off by pushing this button, and you can apply power to the other systems. I believe these they're going to go to the preset screen really quick. You can see that there. I think you can create, it says 2 of 10. Maybe you can create as many as you want. You also see when he powered down and powered up that power plant, there was a little notification that came up in this area. And then here we are on the regular MFD. We're going to go to, in a second here, he'll go to the diagnostic MFD screen, which gives you a little bit more of a simplified view of the different components here. We'll go over in just a second right there. It is a little bit, if we pause there, it's a little bit messy right now. I think it just needs cleaned up a little bit on that UI for that screen, but overall it'll give you a sense of your coolers. Kind of, I think this would be maybe their if maybe the power they're using or something like that. And then this would be an indication of the component's health. And then you also have the option to turn those components on and off from this screen as well. You also have your thruster controls back you saw a second ago, which I think you used to be able to do. You could turn on and off individual thrusters, and it would make it so like if you lost a left side thruster, you could turn off some other thrusters to compensate for that. Then you'd be able to get back to port. You can see there the ship just turned off on him. I think it's because he didn't have coolers turned on and the components overheated, and it turned the ship off. And it seems like it also makes the doors not work, which could be a problem. So that's definitely going to be something to worry about. And then here they're shooting a component. And if you pull out your multi-tool, there's a little bit of new UI that comes up when you have the little salvage attachment on there. So it says Drake Corsair, shield generator canister full. I think there's another example somewhere in the video here where it shows repairing this canister full will show like the integrity of the part goes up as you repair it. There's a little bit more of a look at the kind of entry screen for the engineering terminal, which is not, it's nice that they have this little cooler failure, like red notification on there. So if you're running past the engineering screen, your eyes will be, drawn to that, and you'll see, oh, there's issues. And it even has a little preview of the notifications. You can see there a little bit like problem detected with the power plant or cooler disabled. So it gives you a nice little preview of what you're getting into before you actually get onto the panel itself, which is, I think, a nice quality of life touch to have included on that. Then here we can see the same power management screen, but while there's that cooler failure, so you can see the cooler over here is showing as red. I would assume that means the cooler has been, severely damaged. It's not able to function right now. So that would give you an indication of, oh, okay, well, then we need to go fix that right now, because without that coolant resource, the power plants are going to overheat very, very quickly. I don't know if you'll notice it there while he's on this screen. Now he's looking around on the 3D view. Okay, which cooler is it? Where is the cooler? And then if you click on the components in the 3D view, you can also get a little breakdown of their health, their, what is this, effectiveness maybe, and their temperature. And then that cooler gets fixed and the temperature goes back down. Now here we have him venting the docking collar on the Corsair, and I think it's how it's supposed to react is the life support gets, goes away, and so the atmosphere temperature goes down, you can't breathe in it. It doesn't seem to quite be working right here because the temperature seems to be fluctuating around a bit, and same with the atmosphere, unless it's like the life support is fighting the venting of it, but I don't know if that's really how that would work. So that just may be functioning a bit oddly right now, but you will at least partially lose atmosphere at the moment if you have the life support on, but also vent that room. So then here we can see the power plant just burst into flames for some reason. I don't know why it's doing that here. Here's the quantum drive. You can see that part integrity Little UI there, the part integrity there on the power plant as he repairs it. Part integrity is going up and up. So some pretty readable, nice UI there for that. And here we can see the power plant temperature going up because the cooler has been removed from the slot. You can see it's going up and up. We're in orange. We're not looking so good. And then when we put the cooler back in its slot here, you can see once it pops in there in a second, there we go. That cooler starts doing its job, and the temperature will start drastically dropping on that power plant. So again, coolers are going to be very important if you want your ship to remain functional and working properly. So it'll make it worth it to go searching out for really good coolers like the military grade A coolers that'll provide the best amount of resource. So maybe you can use a maybe 1 or 2 less pips on the coolers, but still have plenty of that coolant to make sure all your other components stay cooled down so you can have your normal functions. But that's pretty much everything from this video, showcasing again some of the functions of the engineering screen and showing a little bit of that UI for repairing the components and kind of when they just burst into flames. But now let's also take a brief look at a similar video for the Polaris, a little bit different perspective there. So let's go ahead and just take a quick look at that. So this video this is also from the Pipeline Leaks channel, but this one was apparently taken from the Evocati issue council. That's why it's not, everything isn't as hidden as it is, because this is probably not being shared by the person that this is or anything. But this is showing inside a Polaris, while there's fires going around in one of the engineering areas, they're going to go ahead and grab the fire extinguisher here. And there's, of course, missing sound effects and all that sort of stuff. That's, that'll get added at some point once this actually is probably in the PTU. But see, it looks like, you kind of got to keep the thing focused on a segment of fire to actually get it to die down. Just kind of flailing it around won't do too much. You can see just fire spreading everywhere. Not looking good. And the temperature is rising quite significantly. It might be a little hard to see in the bottom left, but we're up to like 600 Celsius, going close to 700 Celsius, and it just keeps rising, or maybe it's 800 Celsius. It's quite high. And there's a lot of smoke filling the air at this point. So that's another thing, is that the fire will make it, if you let it go on for too long, it's going to make it very difficult to see in these areas, to see what you're doing. You can see in that lower area, it's very, very foggy and smoky. So that'll be an incentive to tackle fires quickly, or to vent the room, or something like that to prevent it, so you just can't see what you're doing at all. And then here it looks like he's opening the Polaris hangar to try and vent it, it looks like, but the Polaris does have the air shield at the top of the hangar that might be preventing that, so you'd probably have to like open one of the cargo ramps, or just turn off the specific room areas life support. But I think it's going to make it so you're going to need, on a ship like the Polaris, you'll probably want at least 2 engineers to cover a lot of those different areas if you're in heavy combat, to make sure you can handle all of the fires or the repairs you may need to do. That's probably why there's like 6 engineering terminals in the Polaris, so you have them pretty easily accessible throughout those different areas of the ship. But it's looking cool so far, so I'm really excited to hopefully they do another tech preview pretty soon here, maybe with the inclusion of armor as well, because that just sounded like that didn't quite make it in time for this tech preview. But I'd be interested to see how that'll affect things, and if they put it to like a Wave 1 tech preview test, that'd be very cool, so I could get my hands on it myself. But that's going to do it for this video, going over the 4.4 initial data mines from this tech preview, as well as just the tech preview engineering news. Let me know what you think about all this down in the comments. Are you excited for engineering? What other changes would you like to see to make it worth going through all this effort on multi-crew ships? I feel like if they want to add this complexity, they also need to make it like worth it for multi-crew ships. So ship turrets need a buff, they need some fixing, so there's some things to work on. But make sure to let me know what you think down in the comments. And of course, any other thoughts you have on the data mines we talked about, new commodities, new missions, new ships potentially. Make sure to let me know what you think. But if you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like, as it really helps the channel. And if you want to see more Star Citizen news videos as we inch closer and closer to IAE, then make sure you're subscribed as well. There'll be some probably pretty cool stuff later in the week, assuming we get a 4.4 Evocati, and then that'll probably be into Wave 1 and Open PTU testing by next week. So there'll be some cool stuff to check out. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, and I hope to see you in the next one.